Hello fellow FPL managers and welcome to a look at Game Week 13, a review of Game Week 29. So we're going to start off looking at the team very quickly. 45 points, I'm finally back above average. Still not that many green arrows, but I mean it can't be any more red considering in the last 3 weeks I've dropped about 600,000 places. And it was almost a really good week, except I did go for Pogba. If you looked at the video the other day, just when I released it, when I was umming and ahhing about, oh, I've got Hazard, I've got Pogba, I've got Salah, I've got Mane, good fixtures this weekend, even could have risked it on a Wolves player. Went for Pogba, and he's not just got me -2 because I went for him as captain. He missed a penalty right at the end of the game in that confident stand-up that he always does, but you know, 9 times out of 10 he slots it home very nicely. And he didn't just screw me out of points for himself, he did it out of Rashford as well, who blanked, because if I remember correctly, the guy who gets the penalty also gets points for assists. So not only is Pogba giving me minus points as a captain choice, but he's also screwed over Rashford for getting me any points for an assist. So at a slightly above average, I think a lot of people suffered this week for the likes of Salah. Salah was the most captain, he blanked, but I mean, it's better than minus points, right? Aubameyang is the same, he missed a penalty, he was very popular captain, and if you know what happened there as well, he missed his penalty right at the desk to get 3 points for Arsenal away at Spurs. So apart from that, you look across the board, Wolves, I complained about Wolves, Patricio got dropped. Finally, Diego Jota pulled through for me there and pulled out a goal and an assist. And one of the very few players, because you see Johnny was dropped. No, sorry, Johnny didn't drop. Wait, sorry, yes. Johnny was dropped. He didn't play. He was one of the 5 that didn't play. But that was great for me because that meant Wan-Bissaka came on and he got an assist in a very, very convincing Crystal Palace win away at Burnley. Pereira blanked. He's not done a lot since he's come in. But with Brendan Rodgers coming in at Leicester City, it looks like they're already going 3 at the back, and Ben Chilwell and Pereira look like they're going to be playing more advanced roles as wing backs, so they might be 2 players to look out for, especially with their very interesting run of fixtures. I've mentioned this before. They've got up until about game week 34-35, so they might be 2 options to look at as attacking defenders, especially Chilwell, who I think is still rated at 5 million. But apart from that, Vardy got a goal, so 2 weeks for me, 2 goals. But he is carrying a little bit of a head up, but that's fine. Salah blanking again. He's had a few weeks now. You can see he's going through that rut again, where he's only sort of returned once since game week 24. I think he's going to turn around. He's getting clean sheet points at least. But yeah, again, it's that situation where, if you remember earlier in the season, you can see when he was blanking at times before he went on that real hot streak, which what we're used to from Salah in the FPL. He is going through that little bit of a dry spell again, but I do think he's going to be back pretty much sooner rather than later. Hasn't got an assist. I didn't want to risk it because he's not performed well against lower side, but he did get an assist against Fulham. And Alexander-Arnold came in for a clean sheet, so he's picked up a haul in the last 2 weeks. 27 points in 2 weeks for a defender. The 3 assists last week was just absolutely insane. So aside from that, apart from the Pogba issue, if I would have captained anyone else, it wouldn't have been as bad. But if Pogba would have slotted that penalty away, I would have had a pretty decent game week. But I ended up coming in around 2 millionth, which isn't great. But I know there's some horror stories out there. For example, triple captain Pogba, which I'm going to save mine for a double game week. I think Chelsea is supposed to be having a good one, but we're going to wait and see for that. Going on to my team for the coming week though, so 2 changes I have actually made, and I've done it with Wolves, not just because they weren't playing well for me, but because it's the end of the good fixture run for them, and I'm thinking with the fact that they're starting to drop players for the FA Cup, and they're not in a rut. I don't mean that in well, they are. They're in a little bit of poor form, but the fact that they're not going to be challenging for the top 4. Probably not even the top 6. They're not getting relegated. They're looking safe inside that top 10. Probably not finishing any lower than 14th. So they're rotating players out for the cup that they're going for. And the fact that they've not really got a lot to play for. The season's starting to wind down now. and difficult fixtures and blank game weeks. So it does feel like the time is right to switch that around. So you can see I do start Patricio. I think I will change him for Begovic, because I've put Boruc in there, Arthur Boruc there of Bournemouth, because I've missed out on him at 3.9. I've wanted him for a while because it looks like he is the number one keeper now. You can see he's been playing since game week 23. And he's got some good points on the board as well. But the reason why I didn't do him straight for Patricio is you just never know if he's going to get dropped. So Patricio will play again against Chelsea, but then there's blanks and stuff. So Patricio will be out. It's just that it wasn't, as pressing. So you can see Johnny as well is still in the side. He will leave as well at some point. But you can see that I've taken out Diego Jota. He finally actually returns really well for me. But the time was right to swap him for Fraser, who himself has not really been getting any points. Like you can see, week 21 was the last game week when he got a really, really impressive haul against Watford. But it felt like its time was right. He's 6.1, Jota is 6, so that's a 0.1 million turnaround. The reason why I want Begovic is just because I'm covered for Bournemouth. If Boruc does get dropped for Begovic, I've definitely got a goalkeeper. And a goalkeeper that doesn't suffer for any blank or... I know he doesn't gain double game weeks, but he won't blank any game weeks. So it's kind of just, I can forget about the goalkeeper and definitely one of them will play. But again, I'm worried because apart from United going to Arsenal, and we know Arsenal can lose at home to United because they've done it already this season, and United are in such good form, that the rest of the team, it's the same situation where I'm looking at these fixtures, I'm thinking, this is a strong fixture week. My players are playing Huddersfield, Brighton, Fulham, Burnley, Wolves, and Arsenal away. So, but it's Pogba and Rashford who are in great form, who I would back at the moment to get some kind of returns against any team. So I'm happy that I've set it up. This is why I set all those weeks ago, but the last 3 game weeks have destroyed me so much that it's kind of not even made it worth it. I'm finally, the fixtures are starting to pay off. But those 3 weeks have just absolutely decimated me. So I'm going to need an absolute magic moment finish to this season if I have any kind of dignity to get back from my score this season. My predictions from last week actually turned out to be pretty good as well. So Aguero didn't pull in anything against Bournemouth. They looked a little bit tired. I guess it was one of them sayings when they say that if you're going to be a champion, you got to win the games ugly, or you got to dig deep and get past those stubborn opponents. And Bournemouth, for the large part, were pretty decent, and they kind of kept City at bay. But that's 2 1-0s in a week. It's put them back at the top of the table, but nevertheless, Aguero didn't score or assist in that game. And I said relegation candidates, and they all did lose. So you've got Brighton beat Huddersfield, so Huddersfield lost. Burnley lost really badly against Palace. I know Dyche came out and said after, the stats wise, I was really surprised he said this, but he said stats wise we did really, really well. We had more possession, more shots, just weren't clinical enough, but I actually felt they were pretty poor as well. Palace had an absolutely outstanding game there. Southampton lost, despite it was a really, really gutsy performance away at Old Trafford. They really went for it, so really credit Southampton in that game, but nevertheless they lost. Cardiff lost, Newcastle lost, and Fulham lost, so pretty much all the relegation candidates there did actually lose. Going on to players a bit, Pogba broke my heart. I don't want to talk about him yet. He missed a penalty, but again, he played pretty well. He felt a little bit deeper than he has been in the last couple of games, which I was surprised about. Maybe because Pereira was on. But Pogba missed that penalty. It would have been a massive tick if that wasn't the case, and I would have looked. It would have been a really, really good week. But there you go. Pogba let me down there. Hazard got an assist and Kane got a goal. So 2 ticks there. Diego Jota pulling in, I think it was 11 points in that game. Well, he got a goal and assist either way, so he definitely did well against Cardiff, didn't let us down there. Barnes got a late goal on in that Crystal Palace game, which I think it takes him to 5 goals in 6 games, which is a pretty impressive run of form there. And Murray was actually the difference for all the wrong reasons. He was substituted off, I think it was about 65 minutes, and Donne came on and got the goal, and he was a real game changer. So Murray might actually be dropped for recent weeks, but all in all, it was a really good week for the predictions. And Pogba just a shoelace getting that penalty save, which would have saved made it a really, really good week for predictions. But nevertheless, it is a pretty decent week. So looking at my reasons for this game week's predictions, and you can see it's quite a mixed bag this week, and I've got quite a bit to go through, and I might be flicking through this and the Fantasy Premier League app on the tab just so I can sort of make some of my points. So players to avoid, going to start off with Alonso. Now you can see that kind of goes against Wolves just behind me, but I'll come back to that in a moment. But I've gone for Alonso because, first of all, he's owned by 27% still, which is still pretty surprising. He's still 6.4 million, so his price has been falling. But I just feel like Wolves are the team that they've already done really well against top sides this season, especially away from home. And I know they're in a bad run of form, but I'm thinking that when the quality of the opposition goes up, Wolves' performance goes up. And I just feel that with the form of Jimenez and Neves and Moutinho and Jota, I just think like these, I can see them getting a goal at Chelsea. Chelsea have kind of bucked their ideas up of late and got a couple of wins on the bounce, especially a good one at home against Spurs. But they still feel like at any moment there's this fragile feeling at Chelsea with the players and Sarri and all of that commotion that I can just see them sort of crumbling. At any moment I can feel like I don't go into a Chelsea game, any Chelsea game really, unless we're against one of the bottom 5 sides. That makes me think that Chelsea are going to come out on top. And I just feel like some sort of fragile alliance between the players and the manager. So I just feel like Chelsea's going to concede. So I don't think Alonso's a player to pick for me this week. And you can see behind me as well, Wolves. Why Wolves? Not just because of my own personal heartbreak, the fact that I brought them in for great fixtures and they've completely let me down with some really, really shocking defeats. They lost against Huddersfield, drew against Bournemouth, drew against Newcastle. They just didn't do as well as I thought they were going to do, especially in terms of attacking and clean sheets. So Patricio's been... and I'm so angry because I've always had like Ben Foster, even when I was at West Brom, and I took him out, and he's had some good weeks at Watford. And Patricio's done absolutely naff all really for me. But not just a key reason of the fact I mentioned earlier about Wolves, they're in a little bit of poor form. They're dropping players because they're going for the cup. They've not really got a lot to play for. They're not going to be challenging for the top 6. They're not going to get relegated. But also the good run of fixtures comes to an end. You've got Chelsea away from home, game week 30. You've got a blank game week 31, away at Burnley, and then at home to Manchester United. And then another blank game week. So in 5 game weeks, well, you've got 2 blanks, 2 top 6 sides, and a tough away game against Burnley. I would have said tough away game before they got battered at home by Crystal Palace, but you know, going to Burnley is still not everyone's cup of tea. So I would be avoiding some Wolves players for now. Game week 34 onwards, yeah, you're going to get double game weeks coming in, and they've got Southampton, Brighton, Watford, and Fulham. So they've got good fixtures towards the end of the season, but I just feel like the next 5 weeks or so, they're not really the ones for me. Finally, you can see with Richarlison, everyone's Achilles heel. I myself stuck by him so long until he finally returned, and then I finally took him out. But now he's not just getting kicked out of people's FPL sides, he's getting kicked out of the Everton side. He only played 30 minutes against Liverpool, and that goes with... So I'll just read out the last 4 game weeks. He's played 31 minutes, 60 minutes, 65 minutes, and 17 minutes. So at the moment, it feels like he's getting dropped from the Everton side as well. Everton have difficult fixtures. They've only got 3 green game weeks left out of the 38 games. So you've got Newcastle away, which you should expect them to do well, but Chelsea, West Ham, Arsenal, Fulham, United, Palace, Burnley, Spurs, there's just other teams out there, I believe, that have players that'll play 90 minutes for a start, and easier game weeks, because it's kind of like with Everton, it's like on, off, on, off, on, off for difficult fixtures. So I would personally be avoiding Richarlison. He seems to be dropped, not in great form this second half of the season, which seems to be a running theme with Richarlison. And just, yeah, difficult fixtures and poor form. Everton have been disappointing again. Strangely enough, ever since they got bought by the billionaire, and they've spent money, they've just not really performed. They should be pushing for top 6, and it just feels like they're still lingering. I'm not too sure what Everton's problem is, but there it is. Moving on to players to pick, I'm going to go for Heung-min Son. He's been blanking the last few game weeks. Just going to pull up his his stats here. He has been blank in the last few game weeks. You can see the last 3 game weeks. It could be fatigue, but I do feel like he is going to be back. And if there's a team that concede goals despite the heart that they showed against Manchester United, I do feel as though Southampton is a team where Son or Kane or Eriksen could get some goals and assists. Then they've got a blank game week and then Liverpool, so that's pretty tough. But if you look at that, the rest of the season, they've got 2 difficult fixtures. And then the rest of the rest of the season looks pretty good for Spurs. They've had a really bad, is it 1 draw and 2 defeats in the last few games? Yeah, so lost to Burnley, lost to Chelsea, drew to Arsenal. So they've gone in 3 weeks, similar pain that I've felt the last 3 weeks. It's like my FPL soul and the Spurs soul is sort of linked as one at the moment. In the last 3 weeks, they've gone from title challengers, a few points behind Liverpool and City, to making sure they finish in the top 4. But I do feel like it's going to be Sons this week. He's going to be back into it. It's either going to be him or Kane. I'd be surprised if Son doesn't get something. I'm also going to go for another player who has been a little bit quiet of late, and that's Felipe Anderson. He's going to be playing Cardiff, Huddersfield and Everton in the next 3 games. And when you've got a run of Cardiff and Huddersfield and you've been a little bit quiet, he still always looks so dangerous. He's still playing 90 minutes. West Ham are doing all right, but 3 nice fixtures before 3 difficult ones. Just for the next 3 game weeks, I just feel like away at Cardiff, home at Huddersfield, home at Everton are 3 games where if there's Anderson, who has been great, he was great when he was in my side for the first sort of third to half to third of the season. He did really well when he was in my side. And I do feel like, again, similar to what I'm going to say about Salah, he's going to come good again. So finally finishing off players to pick would be Mohamed Salah. Again, he's been quiet. Liverpool have stuttered a little bit, maybe a little bit nerves, have lost that top spot, especially with that 0-0 draw. He's picking up clean sheets. Liverpool at the back are absolutely solid at the moment. But it seems like the wonderful attack at the start of the almost unstoppable about 5 games ago and then before, Salah's been blanking now. He's only hauled once since game week 24, but it's Mo Salah. So I would still back any of Liverpool's attack. Again, they've got 2 difficult game weeks left for the rest of the entire season. They've got no blank game weeks. I know they've got no doubles, but they've got no blank game weeks. The fact that the 2 difficult games are Spurs and Chelsea at home, I think now is a really good time to sort of get backing Salah and Mane once again, as well as the Liverpool defence, because they've been almost impenetrable this season. So finishing off on my players to take a risk on, you can see the first one, I mentioned him before, but he didn't start, but he did finally get 82 minutes under his belt. He's been playing the last 3 games, and he got a lovely goal against Burnley. It's a Batshuayi, only 1.3%. He is worth 6.5 million, but you probably argue that there are other easier, better players out there for that price. But they've got Brighton next, then they've got a blank game week, but then they have Huddersfield and Newcastle. And I think the fight and form that Palace, because they're still not 100% safe, the fight and form that Palace are showing recently feels like they're looking really good. Some really good matches, and I'm thinking he's playing pretty well with Zaha, and he's just looked sharp from the moment he came on for his debut when he played, I think it was about 12 minutes, was it? And he almost scored. He came on for 8 minutes against Fulham and got 4 points. He got an assist. He's looked sharp, and he's only played a few games, but now he seems to be in the starting 11, and low ownership, so he's only 1.3%. He's definitely differential there, and pretty decent fixtures. They've got 3 difficult games out of the remaining fixtures, so Palace still could be a team to sort of back, especially with the form that they're in. Going alongside that, we've got King. If you want an even bigger punt, I have him in my side, but I don't think he's going to be quite fit. I've got Solanke, but I'm going to go for Joshua King. Again, only 6.1% ownership. He has been quiet of late. He's not hauled. He did in game week 27. He got 7 points. He got 16 points game week 24. But he is playing 90 minutes still for Bournemouth. And again, Bournemouth's fixtures now look incredible. They have how many have we got? Game week, there's 8 games left. There's only one difficult team, Spurs, second last game of the season. They've got one FDR rated team, Leicester, away. The rest are all 2s. Now is the time really to be backing Bournemouth players. No blank game weeks, and I think Joshua King, or for what I've done in my side, I've got Fraser in, who's also been quiet. If Bournemouth just don't sort of take the foot off the gas and get some form, get themselves over the relegation line for sure, I think Bournemouth could be a really good shout. And Joshua King did have a good run of form about 5 game weeks ago. 5 to 10 game weeks ago when he was getting pretty good scores. Wilson's still lacking a bit of match fitness. I think Solanke would be really good as your second or third sub. That's what I've done, because for Solanke, he's 0.4% ownership and he's 4.7 million, so he's a really, really cheap option there. But he's starting to get a few. He got injured, but in his first 3 games, he played 61 minutes, 31 minutes, and 90 minutes. So if he can get fit, I know Wilson's going to be back as well. Solanke might be good as your second or third choice sub. But for this week, I'm going to go for King. Good fixtures coming up for Bournemouth. He's the fully fit striker, so I would expect him to play at least sort of 75 minutes. So I'm thinking, and the fact that they're against Huddersfield, and I always say I choose a player, any player, attacking player that is going to play against Huddersfield. Finally, I'm going to go for Yuri Tielemans. Again, similar to what I've been saying about Liverpool and Bournemouth. They've got no blank game weeks. They've got no double game weeks. But Tielemans, it might be in a more advanced role, but that was Brendan Rodgers' first game. But he's got 2 assists in the last 2 games. And for 6 million and a 0.2% ownership, and with the lovely fixtures I've got up until game week 34-35, Tielemans might be a good option if you didn't want to go for a Bournemouth player like Fraser and you're leaving your Wolves assets because of blank game weeks, people being dropped or poor form. Because like I said, you need to have at least a couple of players from teams that are definitely not going to blank. And then that's fine. You can sub them in, sub them out. And for 6 million, and for a Leicester player, and who's in a pretty decent bit of form, and a lot of eyes are on him, he's definitely a talent for the future. If you've played FIFA or Football Manager for the last few years, his name is always around there. But in terms of FPL wise, if you're getting two assists in 2 games, he's playing more minutes as well. And I got 81 minutes in the last game in the defeat against Watford. But they've got Fulham, Burnley, Bournemouth, Huddersfield, Newcastle as the next 5 games. And I do feel that that would be a good time for the young man to shine there. So I'm going to go for Tielemans, not just for this week, but for the next few weeks. And like I mentioned before about Pereira and Chua, it looks like it's straight at the back with attacking fullback. So I think they would be players to look at as well. So thank you for watching this video, guys. I hope you thought the predictions and ideas for the future. Ignore my team. They're gone, they're dead, they're buried. I'll reassess and come back hopefully stronger next season, because there are some mistakes I've made this season, of course. I'm just really... not even. I'm just looking to finish in the top million at this point, which is absolutely shocking for me. But it's going to be easily my worst ever finish in the last 8 years that I've ever done. But let me know in the comments below, what plays are you looking for, not just for this game week, but for the next few game weeks in mind, especially with the blanks and doubles coming up. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Maybe leave a like if you liked it and subscribe if you're new. And thanks, as always. Have a good one.